All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. A good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Welcome to This Week in Pop Culture, the show in which we give you the goings on in the past said week in the world of pop culture, whether we're talking about local news, daily news, film and TV news, tech news, and the like. We try to bring you up to speed so that way you are not left in the wind. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And as always, I'm not going to be alone in talking about the said topics that happened over this past said week. So without further ado, I want to welcome my co-host, Mr. Spillman Trueheart, aka Spills. Let me see if I can get him on. Let's see. What's going on, sir?
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday. We're back with another week and happy spooky season. It's Halloween week, so I'm
Indeed,
surprised
it
me and
is.
Brandon don't have on outfits, but we didn't do it this year.
For sure. I don't know. Maybe we can make a plan to do that for next week. I know that you have some Halloween festivities that are going on. I'm sure you got some. I got some too. So maybe we can make a encore of our own the festivities that we have going on that weekend and do it
Exactly.
for that show next week. So I'm down. If you down, I'm down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
but with that, sorry that we weren't with you guys last week. Had some personal, business to take care of. But I'm glad that you are back with us. Spills, there was a lot that went down this past said week. Whether chief of which, of course, is the NBA season, which of course you guys see there in the background. So we will dive into some of the talking points there because there were some things to consider after what went down in this first week of the NBA. But before we do that, we did have some other things that went down too across the world of streaming, as well as some daily news too. So without further ado, Spills, shall we dive in?
Let's get it.
All right, terrific. So, as I mentioned, we did have some things that happened across the said week, and we're going to begin with our stream and chill talk segment. So, if you don't mind, give us a second. I'm going to bring that up now because we had two iconic series worth mentioning over this past said week, one of which is returning, and the other, which is drawing to a close. Will begin first on Monday, as it was confirmed by Entertainment Weekly that Hulu has greenlit a reboot to the popular series Prison Break. The original series ran for 4 seasons on Fox from 2005 to 2009 and was nominated for a Golden Globe in its debut season for Best Television Series Drama. It, of course, starred Dominic Purcell as Lincoln Burrows, who you see here, a man sentenced to death for a crime he didn't commit. And it also starred Wentworth Miller, who you also see here as his brother, Michael Scofield, who hatches a plan to break him out of prison by tattooing the blueprints of the building on his body. Nearly a decade later, in 2017, it was revived for a fifth season and even spawned a TV movie, The Final Break, and a short lived spinoff, Prison Break Proof of Innocence, which was exclusively available on mobile phones. According to the article, the reboot was centered on Cassidy, starring Emily Browning, an ex soldier turned corrections officer who takes a job at one of the deadliest prisons in America to prove just how far she'll go for someone she loves. The reboot also stars Drake Roger as Tommy, Lucas Gage as Jackson, Clayton Cardenas as Michael, aka Ghost, J.R. Byrne as Junior, Georgie Flores as Andrea, and Miles Bullock as Darius, aka Red. So, not to be outdone, on Thursday, it was announced by Netflix that the series finale of the iconic series Stranger Things, which will be titled The Right Side Up, will premiere on Netflix and in more than 350 movie theaters on December 31st. That is, of course, New Year's Eve, starting at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, playing through January 1st, 2026. Currently, details on the exact theaters showing the finale will be announced at a later date, according to an announcement from Netflix. Spills, If we're talking Break, or if we're talking Stranger Things, what are your thoughts on the return of Prison Break and the end of Stranger Things?
Um, so to me, I feel like the return of Prison Break, that's an interesting thing. I feel like with the climate, the way that it is today, we all need to learn how to break out of prison. I think that, you may not know what will happen to you. You may end up in prison. They have trumped up charges now. So if you end up, you might want to watch this show because he said he tattooed it all over his chest. So maybe you don't have a picture, a photographic memory, but you might be able to break out of prison. I've seen people jump into the laundry cart. You could go to Andy Dufresne route where you dig into the piping and put a sexy poster up on your wall. Put the sexy poster up, then dig through the sexy poster into the piping. Once you're in the piping, then you can climb through a mile and a half of the worst filth known to man and came out clean on the other side. That's what you have to do to break out of prison, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm interested in this Prison Break. I did actually watch the show, but it seemed to be a rave show. Everyone seems to talk well about it, so I think that that's a great thing. I think with the way that the world is going, you never know what could happen.
Yeah, I
It's
feel you.
just
What about
very
Stranger
interesting.
Things? Your thoughts on us
At
getting? Yeah,
first, when they said the December 31st to the 1st, I was like, I don't know if I want to do my New Year's plans in a movie theater. But then I remembered how terrible it is to go out on New Year's. You go out, you go to the club that you normally go to, but they ask you for $250 at the front, and then they give you Prosecco and tell you that it's champagne. And then, you get drunk way too fast. You're hammered by 10:30, and then you got to stand around in some place that has no chairs. So to me, I think that this is actually a pretty good move. People need to have chairs on New Year's. The anticipation for the finale will keep you awake. So I think if we could watch it at 8 o'clock, and I think it might be a 2 hour thing, and you could go watch the ball drop, that's much better to me than I think just standing around at the club uh, you know, doing too much because I know that that's what happens on New Year's. You do too much, and then I think that this is a chance to not do too much. Ladies and gentlemen, do not do too much. How about you, Brandon? How do you feel about the Stranger Things?
so I'll say this. I'll start first in talking about Prison Break. I know that Prison Break was, in its heyday, it was the show to watch, and there were a lot of people that tuned into that show, family and friends. I was not a part of that bandwagon, so I don't know. Maybe I'll do a rewind and perhaps do. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think out there? I know this is the thing that people have been doing these days. First time watch of a certain series or first time watch of a TV show. If you guys are interested in having me do that, since I am one of the folks living under a rock that have not watched didn't watch the original series, but I am aware of how iconic it was. It was one of those shows that so many of you folks watch. So let me know in the comments if you care to have me do a reaction of watching it the first time. I know sometimes it can be fun to vicariously observe others to discover certain shows that maybe those of you out there have already checked out. So let me know. But be that as it may, if we're rebooting this series, I feel like there has been. Let's see, the original show, had its fifth season, as mentioned. There was in 2017, and they have had a couple of other things content wise that they've done. But if you're, I still feel like you would need a little bit more time to kind of separate yourselves from the original show. So I guess time will tell how the reboot is received, and you know based off of not being a part of the original run of the show, I'll be curious to see how this reboot, this new iteration is. So I'll tune in and check it out and see if I vibe with it or not. But if we're talking about Stranger Things, all of that you were mentioning there was Spill was hilarious. Um, Normally, when we're talking about New Year's, I've done the clubbing thing, and I've found as I've gotten older that the way to go is to do those family or those friend related get-togethers, because you have a little bit more say and control over the dynamics of everything that's going on. If you're clubbing, you may not know everybody. At least when you're at a get together with family and friends, you know everyone for the most part. Don't get me wrong, every once in a while, you'll have new folks that'll come, but still, in terms of that, of the degrees of separation, you guys, for the most part, all know each other.
Oh yeah.
So it's a different dynamic. You're able to bring your own booze, so to speak. Bring your own. You can do a potluck of all the stuff that you guys want to bring food wise.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about, like, okay, do I have to pay for a meal here, or pay for this? Just as you were saying
Hmm.
with the alcohol, like, all of it's already there for you. It's already available in one space. You don't have to pay a cover charge at the door.
No
Like,
cover charge.
so I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So,
And there's
uh,
chairs at your friends and family's house. Your friends and family have lots of
exactly,
chairs.
exactly,
They wouldn't invite you
exactly.
over there if they didn't have chairs. If they didn't have chairs, they'd be like, hey, let's do it at your house. You know I don't have no chairs in my house.
Exactly. And then on top of that too, if we're talking about New Year's Day specifically, think people are slow to get up, if you know what I mean,
Oh
trying
yeah.
to slow to get up from the
Ooh,
night
like that. That's how
from the
I
night
am. That's how
before.
I am.
So, it might be nice to be able to, you may not check out Stranger Things on New Year's Eve. You have all your get-togethers, everything that you're doing for New Year's on that New Year's Eve, and then maybe on New Year's Day, you decide to go to the theater. You hold out on watching Stranger Things on your Netflix, and maybe you check out the series finale at the theater on New Year's Day. I don't know, like, it could be a nice relaxing New Year's Day, going to the movies,
The New
checking out
Year's
Stranger
Day thing
Things.
also, speaking of the festivities carrying over into the next day, I don't feel like I've ever wanted to move to go anywhere. Like one year for New Year's, I went to brunch after the next day, and I was like, why am I here eating these eggs? I want to be in the bed. I don't want to be anywhere out there seeing
Well, I'll
nobody's
say
face.
this. I'll say this. I feel like it's different for everybody, and maybe also because of proximity. For me, I have the luxury. Some people have the luxury of having a theater not that far from them. So when you have a theater not that far from you, you have the
Oh,
luxury
you
of.
have a boutique theater, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just any old theater. You just
But I'm
got
saying that
table
that may
service
not
at
be the
that
norm
theater.
for everybody. Maybe
Yeah.
that is a 30-minute drive commute, because you're way out in the suburbs versus being in the city where, you have to actually take time out of your day to make that type of commute. I get that. So maybe it may be different for you, and you're cool just to settle and just watch it at home. But I mean, as I said, such an iconic series, it would be cool to check out this series, on the big screen. After so many years, after all the things that have happened over the course of the time of that show across all the different seasons, it would be a nice, bow on the present that it has been, Stranger Things, by having that experience get wrapped up in on the big screen in the theater with other fans, in a communal experience with other fans. So I don't know. I think that might be the way to go. I think I might just do that. I might hold out on doing the series finale and spoiling myself on watching it at home, while it's still fun. Don't get me wrong, to check it out on the big screen. But maybe you guys feel differently out there. Let us know in the comments. What are your thoughts on the reboot of Prison Break? And I'm sure we have some Prison Break fans out there. Let us know down below how you guys feel about that show coming back. And then also, will you guys be checking out the series finale of Stranger Things on the big screen, or are you just going to check it out at home while you're still recovering from New Year's Eve? Let us know down below. But with that, we're going to switch gears to our daily news roundup, as we had a couple of things that happened across news, uh, with one with the expansion of a couple of stores, as you can see here, a retailer, and then another retailer that is shrinking its corporate staff. So we're going to start first on Tuesday, as Toys R Us announced that 30 new stores would open by the end of the year, with some of these stores now open for shoppers. The Toys R Us retailer plans to include 8 flagship stores and more than 20 seasonal store locations. Meanwhile, on Thursday, Target announced that it would be eliminating 1,800 positions from its corporate staff. According to the retailer, their corporate staff have been asked to work from home next week, that is, the week coming up, and will not find out their fate until Tuesday. So, the Tuesday coming up. A Target spokesperson notified the Associated Press that the cuts represent 8% of Target's global workforce, but the majority of the employees affected are those that are out of the headquarters in Minneapolis. So, Spillman, your thoughts on the reduction of Target's corporate workforce, as well as the increase of Toys R Us store locations?
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this is purely a situation where you give the people what they want. The people want Toys R Us. We want the new stores. We said when they went away, this venture capitalist took something from everyone's childhood that we wanted to pass on to our own children. We said where a kid can be a kid. My son is 6 years old. He's never been to Toys R Us. He doesn't know the joy of wall to wall to wall to wall of toys of all kinds, cars, Barbies, video games, bicycles, basketball hoops, all kinds of stuff. They don't have that. They have 3 or 4 sections in the Target, which is the other thing we talk about. This place is shrinking because they don't
Or
have everything
Walmart?
in there. Or Wally World, they used to have an aisle of turtles, just a whole turtle aisle. We would go down there and see all kind of turtles you want. There's no such thing as that right now. So I'm happy to see that Toys R Us has returned. The venture capitalists are some of the worst human beings in the history of humanity. We don't really talk about that on this show because we don't want to get too into that. But the fact that they be taking the things that we love and giving us things we hate doesn't make sense. How can you make money that way? Take away things people love and give them what they hate. That don't make no sense. I don't know how you can make money giving away hate, but that's what we're doing. I feel like the corporate staff shrinking should have happened before. But if I was on the corporate staff and I heard about me losing my job, but oh boy got to keep a salary job, I'd be like, well, why didn't y'all take his money so I keep my job? What's going on with that? We talked about that a few weeks ago, ladies and gentlemen.
We did.
How he still
We
got his
did.
job, but these people ain't got their job, and they're not the ones that was really making the decisions.
I hear you. So, I mean, I guess I'll say this is that, when we're talking about the idea of Toys R Us, Spillman, I completely agree. Is that I feel like kids these days, they just don't understand how nice it was back then, in terms of how cool it was to be a kid, and the things that you had to look forward to on a week in, week out basis. Even just the idea of going to a mall, as a kid, you were with your parents, you were with your relative. A lot of times, they had to make their errands at a certain store. But as this is coming, that you always had that promise of being able to go to a toy store. So, like, it would have been Toys R Us, it would have been KB Toys. Like, it was a big deal to say, okay, we did all the stuff that so and so that we went to the mall with. They did all the errands, and we had to sit through waiting for them to do all the stuff and all the shopping that they had to do, so that way we could finally, by the end of that trip, go to KB Toys before we left that mall.
Oh
So,
yeah.
um, that was definitely a thing. I'm assuming it was a thing with you too, when it was with parents or with any relatives that you went with. Toys R Us was even better because at that point, you don't have to do that weight. Like the whole store is the
The
toy
whole
store.
store. The
Yeah, so
KB Toys is like
yeah, it's one store in the
Toys R
mall.
Us is
Yeah,
four
it's
KB Toy
wall to
stores put
wall.
together,
It's
but
wall
it's
to
just one
wall,
of those
but it's
stores. It's one
still
of them
one
skinny
store in the
stores.
entire mall.
We talking
Versus
about
Toys
a
R
big
Us,
box. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
you are inundated with
It's a
toys.
Home
So
Depot of toys.
right, exactly. So like you knew for a fact, it wasn't something was like something that was promised to you. It was like, oh, we just gonna, we're gonna hit KB at the end of the, as our last store. Versus
Hmm.
if you at Toys R Us, you can't escape it. There are toys everywhere. So yeah, that was definitely a thing. I mean, add to that, and we've talked about this on the show too. Uh the idea of Saturday mornings, like kids don't understand how, these days how cool Saturday mornings were. You had cartoons all the time. Even during the week after school, you had cartoons. You didn't have to have cable in order to be able to enjoy cartoons. Just on regular television, you could enjoy cartoons after school, and it was purposely done to, start airing after 3 o'clock when they knew kids were coming, home from school. On Saturdays, you had consistent lineups that you could enjoy on a day in and day out basis. Whether it was on Fox, whether it was on ABC, whether it was on CBS, you had all these consistent lineups that you could anticipate and expect every Saturday, every Sunday. So, in terms of the Target thing, I don't know, man. That is so tacky to like have folks waiting on pins and needles of whether or not knowing if they're going to be working their job anymore. Like I don't understand where you're having folks go home, and then you kind of have a D-Day, so to speak, where you're informing people whether they're going to continue to work there or not. Like, just I don't understand. Just let them know so that way they can make their plans accordingly and go on, versus having them on standby to figure out like what their status is. I like that.
Right.
That just
Don't
seems
text me.
super
We need to
tacky.
talk. Don't we need to talk? Me Target membership board. Don't say we need to talk. Just say, hey, I can't do this no more. I don't want to be this. I can't do this no more. I gotta go. I got to go. So I just feel I agree
I feel
with
like
you.
there's
I
a
feel
better
like
way to do that, and
yeah.
probably the I feel like that is the tackiest way to go about it. So, but maybe you guys out there feel differently. You can let us know down below whether we're talking about Toys R Us getting a store locations. It's great to see that they're are increasing some of their stores. I know for a time there they were it wasn't looking too good for Toys R Us, but I'm glad to see that they have some stores coming back. Or I should say, getting having some stores, increasing the number of stores that they have once again. And then let us know how you feel about the whole Target situation. Of maybe you guys don't care because it just so happens that it's not the actual retail store employees themselves, and more of the corporate folks. Maybe you guys feel some type of way about corporates where you have a different perspective. But regardless, at the end of the day, just the idea of how someone makes their living, and to handle it in that type of way when we're talking about the livelihood of people. Let us know down below what your thoughts are on that situation. But that's going to do it for what we have for daily news roundup. And now we're going to get into our sports cooler talk, and talking about the opening week of the NBA. Well, so much stuff went down, spills. So, I'll have a couple of bullet points here that I wanted to, get into. First and foremost, it seems to be, a given at this point that folks have missed seeing the NBA on NBC. And this is according to a story from the network, NBC Universal, which it stated that Tuesday's NBA tip-off doubleheader averaged 5.6 million viewers between NBC and Peacock, which is reportedly the league's highest mark for its opening doubleheader since 2010. And this also includes the 2010 tip-off that had LeBron James's debut with the Miami Heat, which drew 5.7 million viewers. In terms of some of the stories that we had, We have the Thunder, who have established their supremacy at 3-0 thus far. They defeated the Rockets in a double overtime thriller to tip off the NBA's return to NBC and Peacock, led by reigning Kia MVP Shea Gilgis Alexander with 35 points, including 24 in the fourth quarter and the overtime periods. They outlasted the Pacers in a rematch of last year's finals, 141 to 135, thanks to SGA's 55 points. And just yesterday, they defeated the Hawks 117 to 110. The Lakers, and I know Spiel's going to have some thoughts on this, but I have to say it. I have to say it. They have been, just a bit mediocre, at best thus far, even with Luka entering a fresh new season with them. LeBron, he sat out of the season opener for the first time in 23 seasons, a game which the Lakers lost to the Warriors. Yes, the Golden State Warriors 119 to 109. Despite Luka's 43 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists, they would defeat the T Wolves 128 to 110. However, it would take another 40 plus performance, nearly 50, in fact, from Doncic to do so. We do have the Warriors, who I just mentioned, who spoiled the new look Lakers' opener and defeated conference rival and potential title contender Denver Nuggets 137 to 131. On across the conference in the East, we had head coach Mike Brown, who is off to a good start as the Knicks' new coach. The Knicks remain unbeaten at 2-0 thanks to wins against conference rival Cleveland Cavaliers 119 to 111, and the depleted Boston Celtics 105 to 95. And then lastly, Victor Wembanyama has arrived. I think we can say that as a foregone conclusion, as he convincingly spoiled Cooper Flags' debut with 40 points, 15 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 blocks in a 125 to 92 blowout win against the Dallas Mavericks. On Friday, they also eked out a win against the Pelicans, 120 to 116. So Spillman, I mean, there are some talking points that I went over there that transpire in the world of the NBA, and I feel like there's still other ones that I didn't even mention that you can honestly bring up. But what are your thoughts on what we saw?
Uh, as my tagline says, ladies and gentlemen, this is not our world. It's Wimby's world. We just live in it. It's his world. We didn't really talk too much about him, but I see that you have him prominently pictured here. It's the return of the big man, ladies and gentlemen. It's a thing. Basketball is a sport of tall people. I know that we like the long ball. We got the Chef Curry right here. You see Chef Curry. He's over there. He looks cool. He can do a lot of jump shots and stuff, but it's just something different about the game when you have the biggest player in the league that is the best player in the league. Like the way that he's looked, he had a near triple double the other night where he had 29, 11, and 9. And the 9 was not assists. They was block shots. How do you block 9 shots?
It's
That's
crazy.
crazy. That's
It's crazy.
crazy. On a nothing day, he just blocked 9 shots on a Tuesday. It's not like he blocked 9 shots against
Hey,
a
look, he pulled.
training
Hey,
team or
look, hey,
anything.
people understand this reference. He pulled the M Bison. It was Tuesday.
For
Nine
me, it was a
bucks was
Tuesday.
Tuesday. For me, it was Tuesday. Uh, no, I mean his development has been amazing to watch. It's crazy to like observe the skill set that he has. It's kind of like what would happen if you're playing a video game, right, and you create a player that's like that's
He's supposed to create a
undefinably
player.
tall
Like,
and
oh
has
yeah,
guard skills. Like,
God
I'm trying to remember
skills.
what game it was where
NBA
he
Live probably.
yeah, no, because like some of those plays
No,
that I
you talking about a
saw,
real game. Yeah.
I know, I'm just saying some of those plays that I saw where he shook, he crossed over, he stepped back, he shot the three and got fouled. What 7'5" player do you see that can do something like that? Like, or even some of the plays in which he was going to, that he was slashing to the basket. There were so many plays like that where you couldn't it's hard to fathom that he was able to reach the way that he was to get to the rim and to actually dunk the ball. Where if you look at it, moments before it happened, you're like, there's no way he could be able to reach that far to get right there to the basket and then dunk that.
And then it's a
But
violent
somehow
dunk.
he
Not
did it.
just it's not like he'll like and Shaq dunk it. Like we haven't seen nobody dunk this hard in 25 years, ladies and gentlemen. It's
But I'm
been
just
since the
saying the
heyday of the Lakers Shaq.
mobility, the mobility is like absurd to observe in terms of what he's capable of. Like, again, you can't teach height, right? But at the same time, a lot of times when you're talking about that height, you're talking about someone who may not be as mobile because they're so big. But he has he has a lot of mobility to him and a lot of skills that are absolutely rare for someone that is his size. So it's been amazing to watch a lot of those plays where I'm like, gosh, I've never seen anything like that. Like I've never and to have the mobility
Not ever once.
and the wherewithal to be able to do a reverse dunk in transition, mind you,
In
and catching it
transition.
as an alley oop, like the dude in
Oh yeah.
transition as an alley oop, like that's something that you would see maybe from like a 6'5" player, 6'3" player, but someone who's seven
Yeah.
five,
Seven
that's
five.
not fair. That's not fair,
And
man.
he was training with the Shaolin monks underneath a waterfall all summer long, just getting stronger and more prepared and more focused. He didn't just train his body because he also trained with the dream. He also
His
trained with the
mind,
dream.
yeah,
He
he
trained his
trained his
mind,
mind
ladies and
too.
gentlemen. That's what a real basketball player does. A real person. You got to build your complete self. You cannot just be a basketball player only. He said, "I'm gonna do basketball, but I'm also gonna find my zen and destroy these people." And allegedly, he might have. Rob the Louvre. I'm not gonna say that that's what he did. He might have had some people that was involved. He said that he does not like the bourgeois class or any of that stuff. So I have heard that. But to change gears to my Lakers, I feel like you're not giving Luca what his just due is. He's been putting that ball in the bucket. We are only sixth place. Sure, we lost to y'all on opening night.
We
That's
did,
terrible.
we
But I
did.
think that's because allegedly some things have happened with a certain nefarious characters all over the NBA, and they are saying that maybe we're gonna get a Braun baseball season because I think it's gonna happen. I think a Braun baseball season is coming next. We're gonna get Braun playing baseball for 2 years, and then he'll come back to the NBA. Because when you gamble, but you're the number one player in the world, they let you go play baseball. You don't have to, sit out for a few seasons. They be like, hey, just you can keep playing something, but you can't play here. But we'll bring you back in. But I know that that is a controversial topic because certain fan groups don't like to act like that. We caught him gambling. They had to go and
Yeah,
go
yeah,
and play baseball for two
yeah,
years because he cheated the
yeah.
game. But he cheated the
Right,
game. He
right,
quit. He
right.
quit because he cheated the game. But
See what he's
it's
doing there, y'all. See what he's
he
doing there.
cheated the
Go
game, but I think that's probably why he sat out. Because
ahead.
LeBron be knowing stuff before he know it. Like he'd be like, "Oh man, we trade Anthony Davis." He knew they was going to trade Anthony Davis. He knew the whole time. He was like, "Trade him. I don't care. Trade him today." So we doing all right. We both have the same. We have similar records.
I
Y'all
don't
are
know,
2-1.
man.
We are
I
one and
don't
one.
know. Is all that hype that y'all were coming in with of like, oh, Luca, like look, Luca's in shape. He's supposed to be in shape. Like why are we making a big deal about him being in shape? He's supposed to be in shape. And then on top of that, like y'all were making a big deal. Oh, they gonna change the game now. They got Aiden on there. What has Aiden been doing? Like didn't he get downgraded
He's
to
been
to the
complaining.
developmental league if memory serves? Like so like didn't he get downgraded? So I don't know. Like don't get me wrong, Luca is an incredible player. He's an all NBA player, but I just feel like he's finally made the decision to commit to his body and being able to maximize on the talent that he's capable of because he's demonstrated even out of shape that he can be an all NBA player. So if he could do that out of shape, just imagine what he's capable of if he actually commits and decides to really commit to getting in shape and maximizing his ability as much as possible. So, you know, and I bring that fact up, Spills, because when we're talking about Luca too, even with the talent that Luca has, and even with the fact that he is, thankfully for you guys, has decided to commit to maximizing his talents as much as possible. That's only going to get you guys so far. Like there's only but so many games that I feel Luca can do of get of coming in with 40 plus point performances until he eventually burns out. Like, we've seen
Yeah,
it
for
with the
sure.
Knicks. We've seen it with the Knicks where with Brunson that you can't as talented as players are, you can't run them into the ground because it's not really going to work in your favor, for over the course of an entire season, let alone the postseason. It's a
Right.
long season, and you also have a postseason, which, by the way, because I know a lot of people talk about of comparing different eras of play. When we're talking about the postseason is a lot longer than what it used to be. I remember that time when they extended what the first and
The
second round. It
first
used to
round,
be,
yeah.
yeah, it used to be what, like best out of five, and then they decided to make everything the best out of seven. Like that makes a difference. Those additional games that you would have to play makes a difference. Where I feel like it in that first round, I feel like it shouldn't be as lengthy as it is. If you've beat a team three times in the first initial round, I feel like you've kind of established that you are the better team in that initial round. I don't think it's necessary to have to get four wins.
So you're saying as a Warriors fan, you think that 3 games is enough to win a series?
Yes, let's see where you're going
So
with
even
this.
though you could be down 3-1, you saying that we should just quit and not play any of the rest of those games? There's no way that just getting the 3 is 4. You see this is computational mathematics, ladies and gentlemen. You see 3 is 4
Wow,
because if you
wow.
take 3 and you just start looking at the decimal points, you just kind of get to 4. But in the real world, 3 is not 4, ladies and gentlemen. 3 is 3. If I have $4 and I said, "Here, your $3," and you're like, "Wait. Why you get $4? I get $3." He'd be like, 3 is 4. 3 is 4, ladies and gentlemen. 3 is 4. Three is 3 is enough. Is that not enough to say you won? But I need the $4. I need $4. So I just think it's interesting that you would say that about 3 rather than 4. I feel like 4 is the number that we say that you need to get. You get your 4, then you can have whatever you want. But I think also these are TV shows. They want to make as much money as they can. So they're going to put on
Fair.
more. And if you can't win 3, if you cannot win 4, you only won 3, and you cannot win with just 3. You got to have the 4, ladies and gentlemen. So I just feel like this is interesting as a Warriors fan. I don't believe that you actually said that on this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. He said 3. You can just win. What's 3? But the Thunder had 3. Y'all had 3. You cannot win with 3. You got to win with 4. So I just feel that that's that.
So I would say with that, and talking about the Warriors being 2-1, I do appreciate the fact that a lot of people, hello, sir, what's going on? What's going on? We have a cameo here.
We got a cameo. Take me off the camera. I got to tie a shoe, ladies and gentlemen.
uh, but yeah, like if we're talking about the Warriors, um, good on them for being 2-1. I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on the Warriors because, I'll say it myself, with the Warriors being my team, they didn't make any like quote unquote sexy moves in terms of their personnel. They kind of stuck to their guns and didn't really make that many changes outside of who they have at center. They just I know that they have a former Boston Celtic. brain farting on him right now, but
So the Time Lord, do y'all have the Time Lord? No, no, y'all got Al Horford.
Al Horford, thank you. Yes. So
Yeah,
yeah, because we needed some size. I will say that myself. Jump shots are only going to get you so far.
only.
If you're not hitting the jump shots, you're going to live and die by those jump shots. So thankfully that we have someone with experience, with a championship pedigree that we can get. But at the same time, I will be willing to settle on the fact that we are all veterans. Like, we don't have a lot of young guns on that team. I mean, we have Steph at 37, we have Jimmy Butler at 36, Draymond Green at 35, and we just mentioned Al Horford, who's 39. So, good on them that they have been able to demonstrate that they can play with the best of them in terms of those teams that are rallying for a potential run at a title. However, I will say this: I don't think our season, when we're talking about the Warriors, is going to come down to talent and what they're capable of. I think it's going to come down to health. Like, hopefully, they can sustain themselves over the course of the season. Hopefully Kerr can somehow find creative ways to allow them to get the most out of them without burning them out, and really using that roster in a way where a lot of those veterans are able to rest, when needed, versus, playing them into the ground. And I mean, I'm glad that we have Al Horford, but I am still, I'll be honest, a little concerned about long term what they're going to be able to sustain. Not necessarily who they have on the roster, but because of the age of those who are on the roster, if they're how long they'll be able to sustain at the pace that they're at. That would be my only concern. I would imagine for you, Spills, it would be, not doing the same with Luca, but maybe you have some different concerns with the Lakers. If you're being objective, what would be things that you're kind of keeping your eye on?
I'm concerned that we got another 7 foot person that fleeced us. We looking like the Washington Wizards right now. We got somebody who can score 40, but the rest of the team look like, oh man, he can score 40. We need y'all to play. What's going on? Um,
Reeves
DeAndre
is playing.
Ayton,
Reeves is playing now, but
Reeves is
that's it.
playing.
That's it, though. That's all y'all got.
That's all we got. I feel like, you know,
And
with the
he's a
Damon
defensive
Jones,
liability too, so I don't know.
with the Damon Jones news, I feel like that's what the issue is. Damon Jones has said that he had known some inside information and the FBI got him. So to me, I feel like it might be a bad time, ladies and gentlemen. We might be a little worried about my Los Angeles Lakers. But we haven't even talked about the champions. That's the thing that's crazy. We sat here for about 15 minutes just talking about NBA. Do you think that the Oklahoma City Thunder will repeat?
That's a good question. I like what I've seen with them thus far. I know a lot of times when we're talking about champions, that the thing that you're always concerned about when you've won a title is, do people perceive that you are still the team to beat? And a lot of times, you kind of psychologically with yourself as a team don't want to give the idea that you're a quote unquote a one hit wonder, where it was just an aberration that you won the championship the year before. And I feel like thus far they've demonstrated that it wasn't an accident that they won a title last year. They have the best player in the league. I know a lot of people will say that it's Joker, but when we're talking about a player like SGA who is able to get to the line, I feel like that's a lost art of being able to draw fouls, and to be able to draw fouls and be able to score from the line. That is something that is a skill set that there are even franchise players that haven't completely mastered. And I feel like he has done a terrific job of being able to master that skill, which makes the game, let's be honest, way easier for him, because if you're getting most of your points from the line versus, and don't get me wrong, he's fully capable of, getting points without being on the line. But in a lot of those games, he was able to get, 15 plus points at the line, and that's crazy just to be able to get an average like that, just at the line. It kind of reminds me of those days where you were having those I call them those video game harden days. Then when he was with the Rockets, where he was dropping 50, he was dropping 60, consecutively on given nights, and that was because he was just getting to the line so frequently on top of the pace in which he was scoring. So they unlike many other teams too, you have the best player, you also have a deep team. You have a team where even if someone goes down, you still have someone else on that team who can kind of pick up the slack for the player that has gone down. So uh, I still feel from what they've demonstrated to us that that they're still the team to beat, because they're not even 100%. They still have players that are out even right now, and they're still convincingly beating teams. So um, I still feel like, as I said, they're the team to beat, and that they're going to be, right there, unless something, extremely drastic happens. When we're talking about major injuries or other things that may happen that may change over the course of the season, yeah, I think that they're still the team to beat. And I haven't even mentioned this. I feel like when we're talking about let's talk about, and I know I didn't put it as a bullet point, but what is it, the Rockets? Like what's going there? Because I know there's been so
It's a
much hype
lot.
surrounding that
It's a
team.
lot.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
with our
saying.
men and the Turkish boy and KD, that seems like it's a roster built for late in the playoffs. But you worry if KD can last. I feel like we've seen, we're on this side of KD's career, but he won't have to be the focus point. I feel like because you won't rely on him to get you buckets night in and night out like he has in the Suns and other places he's been, because we've seen that team go pretty far in the last years. I think that that'll be. I think that that's a good pickup. Maybe they could make a run, but who knows? It all depends on shaky legs with Kevin Durant.
I would take it a step further and say, like, I feel like people don't put enough attention to the idea of a new player joining a team. On paper, while it may make sense to have KD join the Rockets, we've seen it time and time again. When you have a major franchise player like that joining a new team, it takes some time for that team to kind of coalesce, where that player has to get used to that team, and that team has to get used to having that player on their team. Doesn't matter how talented they are, they're going to have some growing pains of trying to figure out how they work together, or how they figure in together as a unit. And I feel like, since you know since this is the first time that they've actually done it, um it's going to take probably maybe the first quarter of them this season for them to kind of get accustomed and used to that. And I feel like you guys are at an advantage when we're talking about Luka Doncic, because you've already had part of a season to get acclimated together. So this is now that you kind of had a chance to get acclimated together. Now you can kind of just go, because you've developed some chemistry, you've developed some consistency of playing together, where I feel like it's going to mesh a little more seamlessly in terms of him fitting into that team versus someone who you guys are just starting to play together. And then on top of that too, I feel like too much attention was being paid to the idea of how tall the team is. When you and I both know, we just talked about this with Wimby. Don't get me wrong, you can't teach height, and height is important when we're talking about basketball. But at the same time, skill set is also important when we're talking about basketball too. Even when we're talking about how tall a player is or isn't, and when we're talking about a player that is tall, you talked about Amen. Like, don't get me wrong, he's an extremely supremely talented player, but I feel like he is out of position when we are talking about a player that needs to run the offense as a point guard. So Um, they for sure, are missing, what is it, Van Cleet, when we're talking about having someone in that guard position.
Yeah.
So when you come across a team that is talented and is able to work together as a unit, a team that's used to playing together, which is the Thunder. When you have a team that's athletic, which is the Thunder, a team that is not an old team, they're a relatively young team, which is the Thunder. They're going to cause problems. Whether we're talking about a team that has an extremely tall lineup, whether we're talking about a veteran team who kind of knows how to play, because now you're dealing with a team that already has the championship pedigree because they've just won a title, but they have the youth necessary to, outlast you over the course of a game. So, you don't really have the experience part or the psychological part, which you were talking about with Wembley, to be able to fall back on to kind of, eke your way through a victory against a younger team that, may not be as experienced. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting season. Excited about the season. Unless we didn't even talk about this, Spills. How about having the NBA back on NBC? Like, that was so cool to have him back on NBC.
But what have we lost, ladies and gentlemen? Sure, it's great they're back on NBC, but now we lost TNT, and now you got to get like an Amazon or something to watch games. I don't like Jeffrey's umbrella of corporate tentacles that he seems to have wound around everything that I like and love. I don't like that person. I don't like the way that he does business, and I don't like the way that they siphon money away from all of us, but can go to space. I don't want to get on that today, ladies and gentlemen, but I feel like that's great. The NBA on NBC is back, but we lost TNT. And seeing Charles and them on ESPN doesn't feel right because ESPN is a place where you can't be joking on people and talk about the women of San Antonio. I feel like they would never let him do something like that on their network. So I don't know. What we gained, but we lost far too much. I feel like we flew
I don't
too
know.
close to the
Like,
sun. We're Icarus.
I
We
get what
got
you're saying. I get what
wax
you're
wings.
saying. There is something about inside the NBA that is priceless. But I'm sorry, I was a sucker for hearing the old theme, the old NBA theme, and seeing like the just that logo of this is the NBA on NBC. Like, just that it just took me back to those that decade of the 90s where like you were it was a Saturday or Sunday, and had it was NBA season, and you had that excitement of the initial intro that they have. I kind of miss that too. Hopefully they bring that entire intro back, where you're seeing the actual like formation of that logo of the NBA or NBC. It was hopefully they'll bring back the whole intro and not just the theme song. We'll see, but still, just with the little bit that they did provide of having it back on NBC, it was good to see it back there. Um, Maybe you guys out there feel differently. As I said, there were a lot of things that went down, a lot of storylines that we had. And then I was going to also say, to the point of the Thunder, we also have the idea that a lot of times, Spills, when we're talking about a championship team and we have the ring ceremony, when that team, has to receive their rings, a lot of times they take their foot off the gas on that opener because they're so, entrenched in the excitement of getting their ring that they're not really focusing always on the opener. But to their credit, they still got the win in the opener, that they also, received their rings. So, that's another thing that I also want to give credit to when we're talking about the Thunder, is that it's not unheard of for a team to take their foot off the gas and to not focus and focus in on the task at hand when we're talking about that opening game. And the Thunder definitely did that for the opener that they had this season. So that was another thing that I meant to mention as well. So, but what are your thoughts out there in terms of what we have with all these stories with the NBA? You can let us know down below. Whether we're talking about the Lakers, do you feel like the Lakers, are going to be, in the postseason as so many are hyping them to be? How do you guys feel about the Rockets? Do you think that they're going to pull themselves out of this hole that they're in? Because if memory serves, I don't think that they've won a game this season thus far. I can, verify that, but I'm pretty sure if memory serves, last I remember that they have not yet won a game thus far. But even when we're talking about the Warriors, with the veteran Warriors, do you feel like they'll be able to keep that consistency, over the course of an entire season? You can, let us know down below. But that is going to do it for this week in pop culture. Thank you guys so much for watching. And before we go, I'm going to punt it over to Spills. Can you tell folks where they can find your Spills?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at Truly Spill on Instagram. I'm there talking about the world that we live in that is Wimby. So, we can talk about that. We can have other things that we talk about. We look forward to you there every day, and I'll see you there.
All right, excellent. And you can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on X, and then Brandon Choi underscore ENT on Instagram. And to confirm, yes, they have not won a game, talking about the Rockets. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see y'all soon. Peace.
Peace, 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 peace.